What's up, Rockstars? Today I'm going to be talking about Mythic Battles Ragnarok and Batman Season 3. That's right, we're actually going to be talking about it in the open. I have details about both Kickstarters, so let's get to it. As always, I'd like to start out with a quick shout out to my patrons and YouTube members, because without their support, I would not be able to make the quantity and quality of videos that you see here on the channel, so my honest coverage is in large part thanks to them. Additionally, if you're down there commenting, liking, subscribing, sharing, following the merch link, going on Amazon, if you're pausing that ad blocker and actually watching those silly ads, as always, thank you so much. You guys are a huge help and a huge moral boost, and I very much appreciate it. Even if you don't do any of that though, I'm happy you're here and I hope you find this video helpful and useful. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so just as a forewarning, there is no script here. I'm just kind of talking off the cuff. I have some notes here that I'll be reading, and I have no visuals at all to share with you at this time, or at least nothing new. And you guys, I think, have seen just about anything that I have access to. Trust me, I try to get that out to you and really show those in all the videos that I do. So, and really that's just about Mythic Battles Ragnarok. So as we know, Mythic Battles Ragnarok is in Q4. They are actually going to do another Kickstarter this year. There's also the Batman RPG, and I'm not sure where that lies in there. I do know that they have different management working on different RPG versus board games, and so that's kind of a little bit in tandem there. And in large part, Monolith is not focused on doing a lot of campaigns anymore. Instead, they're wanting to just kind of do what they can and have each one self-contained. There's another video I'll be doing in the future discussing kind of their strategy and some other strategies I've seen on Kickstarter, and just comparing and contrasting different things from company structure to business strategy to implementation to all that kind of stuff. So I'll be doing that in the future. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you nerd out about the industry or just care about the Kickstarter scene, especially around miniature board games, be sure to subscribe for that. All right, now going into Ragnarok, it's going to be smaller than Mythic Battles Pantheon. Now it's going to be smaller in both content and boxes, but mostly boxes. So up here, you can't see it, but there is 1, 2, 3 Calyx shelves full of Mythic Battles Pantheon stuff. And I don't quite have exactly everything. There's actually a little bit more there. So probably 3.5 Calyx shelves full is what we're at now with the Mythic Battles Pantheon. And that was around $500 for an all-in at the time, which is actually a fairly good deal for how much you're getting there. I mean, that's a lot. However, that's a lot. Now, they have several different things going on and why they chose to go a little bit smaller with Ragnarok. Number one is easier to balance. There are 120 units in Mythic Battles Pantheon, and as you can imagine, that is nigh impossible to properly balance to its fullest extent. Now, through the 1.5, they redid like almost every board, it seemed like. So everybody got a little touched up, some of the scenarios got touched up, and they're doing what they can to balance that. But 120 units already, right out of the gate, is a ton to do, especially all at once. Especially without, a whole lot of play data and iterating on that. When you see companies like Games Workshop with a ton of different units in Warhammer, obviously even there the balance and the meta is kind of there where it's a little bit of an issue, but they have been iterating on that over and over and over again with a lot of data and a lot of time invested into it. So to come out with just a huge swath of stuff, you can impress people with that, but that doesn't mean you can necessarily balance it to be as good of a game as it can be. So they want to kind of limit that so that they can make the game as good as it can be. Understandable. Additionally, price and storage. I already said it takes up 3 Calyx shelves. If I have all of that, and then I get all of Ragnarok, and then I get all of the Egyptian one, how much space is that going to take for me? How much is that going to cost me? If that's $500, and this is $500, that one's $500, am I going to spend $1,500 on Mythic Battles as a game series? Or if they want to go beyond that and add new Norse stuff, or new Egyptian stuff, or something else, who knows, right? Maybe some they could go a ton of different ways. They can still support it. And so then the question is, well, when is enough enough? And so they're just trying to balance all of that around the amount of units, how much space it takes up, and then of course people starting out. So I talked about how when you have 120 units and you're just inundated with a huge amount of stuff right away. It's not exactly the easiest game to get into, especially their first play session where you have to like draft and pick stuff out. When I introduced my play group to this and my family to it, I actually only did the core box and even stretch goals for the first 3 games just to kind of get a sense of all the mechanics. And then I added the stretch goals, and then I added the expansions after that. So we kind of went into it a little bit slow, and we had to, because otherwise I would have just laid 120 cards out and said pick one, and we would have spent the next 3 years reading all of the cards. So they're balancing people who are just getting introduced to the Mythic Battles system through Ragnarok, as well as people that already have a bunch of Pantheon and want to add Ragnarok. So they're kind of balancing all of that together, and along with kind of their strategy around kind of self-contained Kickstarters that can manage themselves and fund themselves and kind of deliver without issue. So they're shrinking that a little bit. So I don't think it's necessarily something to be concerned about, like they're not going to support it or anything like that. The fact that we're getting new Batman Season 3 stuff, the fact that we just got Conan after 5 years of it being out, I'm not concerned about long-term support. I think they're just kind of trying to be as smart as possible with it. And honestly, do we need that much? That being said, if we were going to get too much, I would have rather have it been the Norse than I would have the Greek, though I do like Greek mythology as well. My wife would have preferred the Egyptian. Whatever, you can do what you can do. So, that also means that it will be cheaper than $500. So if you have $500 budgeted for Ragnarok, you're all set. That means you can even do the shipping, I'm sure. So that is one thing to, to note, is it will be cheaper than Pantheon was, which was around 500. But it's going to be more than 100 too. So somewhere between 100 and 500 is the range I was given. So somewhere in there is probably where you can expect it to be. I would expect it closer to 500 than 100. But it should be a pretty nicely all in, which is kind of nice. Me personally, anytime I see an all in of about $300, I don't really think too much of it, which I don't know what that says about me or the Kickstarter kind of world we live in, but that's just kind of where it's at. So hopefully it's around there. I think that'd be a good sweet spot. Okay, moving on to Batman Season 3. So here's what happened. There was kind of a little bit of a rule book leak. Paul Grogan, he posted that he was redoing or has been commissioned to redo the rule book for Batman, and posted an image of him painting some minis, or his painted minis. And, of course, several people picked up and they're like, so that means Batman is definitely a thing. You wouldn't be doing that if you weren't doing something. You're not going to do that for the RPG, right? That was kind of always my concern, is, well, what if it's just for the RPG? It's kind of hard to judge what they'll combine or not combine. Maybe they'll do a come on and put minis with the RPG, so you have to back the RPG to get the minis or something like that, like comic books or something crazy like that. Anyway, not the case. Season 3 is going to be a thing. Obviously, it'll be after Ragnarok, after RPG Batman, so it's kind of a little ways away. I would assume it's in the first half of 2021 would be my assumption. Probably closer to the first than not, but it depends on how late Q4 Ragnarok is, I suppose. So, we know there's a rulebook, and we know that they're redoing the rulebook. That's info number 1. That's a good info, because I think I spent 5 minutes dogging on the rulebook of my review of Batman Gotham City Chronicles. If you get past the rulebook, it's a fun game, but obviously you have to get past the rulebook, and it's just too much, right? It's too much. I don't know if I've seen enough flow charts in my life, but I think I have now that I've read that rulebook. So, new rulebook. Additionally, they're going to have a different co-op system than Conan. I can't talk too much about this. All I can say right now is that it will be different, and in my opinion, I think it's better for us for it. That's not to say that the Conan system is bad. It's just when it comes to utilizing it with our stuff, it sounds like it's going to be better. I can explain more later, but for now, just know that it is going to be different. It is not quite the exact same system. However, I don't see it as a bad thing, and I'll have to tell you guys why later, I suppose. So sorry about that, but that's where we're at right now. They will still be offering some adventure mode scenarios. So you'll get adventure mode, you'll get co-op and stuff, solo stuff. So expect it kind of like what Conan did, but with Batman more or less, and around probably the content wise as well. So it'll be smaller and cheaper than Season 2, which was already smaller and cheaper than Season 1. So it'll be less than that. Additionally, they might have a picking zone, but if they do, it's going to actually be probably in the Pledge Manager after a survey. So in other words, they're going to survey us and actually ask what we want and try and give us just what we want without inundating us with feeling like have a fear of missing out if we don't, purchase 100,000 different, oddball Batman characters. So they're trying to just offer the cream of the crop, exactly what we want of what's left. I imagine they have some options. I know they do have the IP license for all of DC, not just Batman, and not just the comics either. So they could do movies, they could do TV, they could do other iterations, they could do newer stuff like Metal, right? They could do all sorts of stuff. And this is me speculating. I don't know exactly the content per se. I kind of know a little bit of the setup, but I can't go into that too much. However, there's still plenty of Batman fun to have, I'm sure, for at least another season. And in fact, with how Batman and comics have been going and introducing characters and different versions of characters and multiverses and timelines and whatnot, they could probably do a season about every other year, I feel. And maybe they'll do that. I don't know. We'll see. But they will kind of have a little picking zone after a survey. That survey will also cover whether or not we want a storage solution for the picking zone. Now, you might see... Yeah, so behind the Batmobile is nothing but a whole bunch of... in fact, we'll show you. See, it just falls out. So... that's the problem with the picking zone, and that's what they're going to be asking if we want to do a storage solution for that, because that's like 3 or 4 layers deep there. It's just stuffed of people, so I have to like pick them out and put them in a pile, and it's kind of ridiculous. That being said, we'll have to be conscious about that, because it's very expensive to do on them, and that's not just Monolith, that's all companies when it comes to big box storage solutions, especially because often they're shipped fairly empty, because you have to have the trays or foam or whatever in there to do it. So you can't really pack a whole bunch of stuff in there. And it normally has a high return rate as well, because it can get damaged fairly easily, being so big and just being a box. If you look, I'm sure I have Deep Madness. I just rearranged all this, as you can see. And Deep Madness is actually right there. So there's Deep Madness. That big box has some damage in it, and I didn't even bother asking for one, because I knew they were already kind of hurting from doing that. It cost a lot to ship. It was pretty much empty when I got it, and the box is still slightly damaged. So it is kind of difficult, and they had some issue even with the Mythic Battles Pantheon storage box. Again, same thing. It's expensive for them to do. It's expensive for us to pay for shipping, and they have a high return rate where they have to kind of fix issues in the shipment. So we'll have to kind of judge that and see, and I'm not sure what the perfect solution is to that. I wish there was like some way you could like fold a box down and pop it up and still have it be structurally sound. But these big boxes tend to be kind of heavy, so who knows? Maybe a whole bunch of smaller boxes would help. I'm not sure. Anyway, so they're going to have that survey, and they're going to have essentially an option for picking zone characters, just some, not a whole lot. They're going to have an option for a big box storage solution for all of Season 2 and probably the Season 3 stuff as well. Maybe they just want a storage solution for all of it. I don't know, but that would be even bigger than Deep Madness, I think, at this point, after 3 Kickstarters. So... that's all the information I really have. I know this is kind of a quick one, but I just wanted to get this news out there because I knew you guys would be interested. I know I was interested, and I definitely want to keep finding out a little bit more, so I will obviously talk to you guys as I get more information. I'll probably incorporate it in the typical news coverage that I do instead of a standalone video like this, unless it's another kind of big chunk. But I felt Batman Season 3 info, like actual Kickstarter info, pricing on both Ragnarok and Batman, I think that's fairly important, especially when you talk about scale and size and kind of what's coming up. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. Obviously, thanks to Monolith for reaching out and actually talking to me. That obviously helps me share stuff with you, and then you guys know, and then us as consumers are more well informed about what we need to be saving for and what we don't, and how much about we need to be saving for it. So that's obviously helpful. Alright guys, I hope you found this video helpful. I'm not going to drag it on forever. I just hope that you, if nothing else, enjoyed me rambling a little bit. I will talk to you guys again very soon about the August Kickstarters, and there's going to be quite a few news updates. It's going to be another big one. Not so much that August is huge, though August does have some Kickstarters to look out for. But there's a lot of updates and news and stuff, from ebooks that are available to all sorts of other stuff. So I'll be talking about all of that at the end of this week. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching, as always, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon.